I stood in the doorway of my own bedroom, the one I'd painted that soft lavender the summer before, and watched my best friend's bare back arch under the weight of the man who'd promised to marry me in 6 weeks. The air smelled like the vanilla candle I'd lit for the bridal shower weekend. Girls' night. Champagne, silly games, the works. Except the champagne was still chilling in the fridge downstairs, and the only sound was the wet slap of skin on skin and Lisa's little moan. The same one she made when she tasted the frosting on my engagement cake and said, "Girl, this is going to be the sweetest day of your life." I didn't scream. I didn't drop the tray of mimosas I was carrying. I just felt the glass go cold in my hands, like my blood had stopped moving. Lisa and I had been thick as thieves since we were 12, trading jelly bracelets and secrets behind the bleachers at Lincoln Middle School. She was the one who held my hair when I puked after my first legal drink, who drove me to the ER when I thought my appendix burst junior year, who cried harder than I did when Marcus got down on one knee in the middle of the county fair, cotton candy stuck to his shoe. She was supposed to be my maid of honor, the one standing closest when I said I do, and Marcus, he was the quiet guy from the auto shop who fixed my busted Civic, for free because pretty girls shouldn't have to walk. He brought me coffee every morning the way I liked it. 2 sugars, a splash of oat milk, and kissed the freckle on my left shoulder blade like it was a secret only he knew. We'd picked out save the dates together, arguing over fonts until we were laughing so hard we couldn't breathe. That weekend was supposed to be sacred. My mom had driven in from Tucson with her famous cinnamon rolls. My little cousin was practicing her flower girl petal toss in the backyard. The house smelled like sugar and hairspray and the promise of forever. Instead, I found them in my bed. I must have made a sound. Maybe the glasses clinking. Maybe just the air leaving my lungs, because Lisa's head snapped up. Her lipstick was smeared across her cheek like a bruise. Marcus rolled off her so fast the headboard cracked against the wall. "Becca," he started, voice cracking like a teenager's. Lisa just stared, eyes wide, mouth open, the sheet clutched to her chest like that could hide what I'd already seen. I set the tray on the dresser. The orange juice sloshed over the rims, staining the wood the color of dried blood. My hands weren't shaking. "Not yet. You were supposed to be at the nail salon," I said. My voice sounded like someone else's, steady, almost curious. Lisa swallowed. We thought you'd be longer at the bakery, where I'd gone to pick up the custom cupcakes with our initials piped in edible gold. Marcus had texted me a heart emoji when I left. Lisa had hugged me at the door, told me to take my time, babe. We've got everything under control. I looked at the bed. My grandmother's quilt, the one she'd sewn from Marcus's old work shirts and my high school t-shirts, was twisted around their ankles. The engagement photo on the nightstand smiled back at me. All 3 of us crammed into the frame from last Christmas, Lisa's arm slung around my shoulders like she belonged there. I picked up the photo. The glass was cool against my fingers. "Get out," I said. Marcus reached for his boxers. "Baby, let us explain. Both of you, out." Lisa started crying, the ugly kind with snot and hiccups. She kept saying my name like it was a prayer. I didn't move. I just watched them scramble for clothes, watched Marcus trip over his own boots, watched Lisa try to button her blouse with shaking fingers. When they were dressed, I opened the bedroom door wider. "My mom's downstairs," I said. "If you walk out together, she'll know. So decide who leaves first." Lisa looked at Marcus. He looked at the floor. In the end, Lisa went first. She paused in the hallway, one hand on the banister. "Becca, I'm so sorry. Don't," I said. "Just go." She did. I heard her heels on the stairs and heard my mom's cheerful, "Lisa, honey, you're back early," and Lisa's choked excuse about a headache. The front door clicked shut. Marcus lingered. He smelled like her now. Her coconut shampoo, her peach lip gloss. He tried to touch my arm. I stepped back. "I love you," he said. Don't finish that sentence, I told him. "Not if you want to keep your teeth." He left too. I locked the door behind him. Downstairs, my mom was humming, rolling out dough for more cinnamon rolls. The kitchen smelled like yeast and safety. I stood in the doorway and watched her flour-dusted hands, the way she tucked a loose curl behind her ear with her wrist. "Everything okay, mija?" she asked without looking up. I opened my mouth, closed it. The words were stuck behind my teeth like stones. "Fine," I said. "Just tired." She nodded, believing me because that's what mothers do. I went back upstairs. The bed was still warm. I stripped the sheets, balled them up, carried them to the washer like I was handling evidence. Then I sat on the bare mattress and stared at the wall until the sun went down. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the guest room, listening to the house settle, the old pipes groaning like they were grieving too. My phone buzzed with texts from Lisa, paragraphs of apologies, emojis of crying faces, promises to explain. Marcus left voicemails I didn't play. At 3:17 a.m., I opened my laptop. The wedding website stared back at me, our names in curling script. The countdown clock ticking, 42 days, 11 hours. 38 minutes, I hovered over the edit button, then I started typing. Not a cancellation. Not yet. An invitation. Lisa had always said she wanted to be front and center when I finally got my happy ending. Fine. I'd give her the best seat in the house. I smiled in the dark. The first real smile since I'd walked through that door. Payback, I decided, didn't have to be loud. It just had to be thorough. The days after that blurred into a kind of quiet storm. I didn't cry, not in front of anyone anyway. Mornings, I'd wake up to the empty side of the bed, the indent where Marcus's head used to press into the pillow, and I'd trace it with my fingers until the cotton warmed under my touch. Then I'd get up, brew coffee too strong, and scroll through the wedding Pinterest boards Lisa and I had built together. Lace details, wildflower bouquets, vows printed on watercolor cards. Each pin felt like a paper cut now, small and stinging. I didn't tell Mom the truth. Not yet. She'd hover, her worry lines deepening like cracks in dry earth, and I wasn't ready for that flood. Instead, I let her fuss over the dress fittings, her cool hands pinning the hem while she murmured about how the ivory silk brought out the gold in my eyes. "You look like a dream." "Becca," she'd say, and I'd smile, tasting the lie like bitter almond. Lisa texted every hour those first few days. Long messages that started with, "I never meant to hurt you," and ended with, "Please, we need to talk." I read them all, letting the words sink in like salt in a wound. Marcus called once, left a voicemail that crackled with static. I messed up. It was one time. "I swear, Becca, you're the one I want." I deleted it without listening to the end. One time? As if that made the quilt any less. Work kept me afloat barely. I'm a graphic designer at a little ad firm downtown. Nothing flashy, just enough to pay the mortgage on the bungalow Marcus and I had bought last spring. The office smelled like fresh ink and someone's perpetual microwave popcorn, and my cubicle was a shrine to normalcy. Framed photos of beach trips, a mug that said Bride Tribe from Lisa's bachelorette she'd thrown for her own short-lived engagement 2 years back. I'd stare at that mug during lunch breaks, the ceramic cool against my palm, and wonder when the cracks had started forming. Had it been the way Lisa's laugh lingered a beat too long when Marcus joked at our game nights? Or the extra hug she gave him when she thought I wasn't looking, her hand pressing just a fraction too low on his back? I pushed it down, buried it under client revisions and coffee runs. But at night, alone with the hum of the fridge and the distant bark of the neighbor's dog, the questions clawed their way up. Why her? Lisa, who'd been my anchor through Dad's heart attack when we were 20, who'd sat with me in the hospital waiting room, her knee pressed against mine, sharing a vending machine candy bar until the doctor came out with good news. She knew every scar on my heart, the boy who ghosted me senior year, the miscarriage I'd whispered about over wine one rainy afternoon. And Marcus. He'd held me through the grief of losing Grandma last winter, his arms steady as oak when I couldn't stop shaking. Betrayal like that doesn't just break the surface. It seeps in, colors everything gray. By Wednesday, I'd made a decision. No rash moves. No screaming matches or thrown plates. I'd seen enough true crime podcasts to know revenge is best served cold, with a side of strategy. I called my cousin Elena first. She's the family's unofficial wedding coordinator. The one who'd sewn my prom dress from thrift store scraps and talked me through every panic attack since college. "Canceling?" she asked when I finally spilled it over the phone, my voice muffled against the throw pillow on the couch. The living room lamp cast long shadows, turning the half-packed gift boxes into hulking shapes. "No," I said. "We're going through with it." There was a pause, the kind where I could hear her breathing, measuring her words. "Becca, honey, you don't have to." "I know. But I want to, just change the date. Make it next weekend." "Next weekend?" Her voice pitched up, a mix of shock and that protective edge she got when someone hurt one of us. "That's fast. What about the venue?" "The officiant?" "Tell them it's a surprise elopement, intimate, just close family and the bridal party." I swallowed, tasting the metallic tang of resolve. "Lisa's still the maid of honor." Elena was quiet again, longer this time. I could picture her in her kitchen, twisting the dish rag between her hands like she did when she was thinking hard. Are you sure about this? Revenge weddings sound romantic in movies, but it's not revenge, I lied softly. It's closure, she sighed, the sound carrying all the weight of our shared blood. Okay, but you call me if you need an escape hatch. I've got bolt cutters in the glove box. We laughed, brittle and brief, and hung up. That night I lay awake, the ceiling fan slicing the air in lazy circles. Closure. The word felt like a placeholder, a blank space where the hurt should be. But as I drifted off, the plan took shape in my mind, a ceremony that looked perfect from the outside. Vows exchanged under the willow tree in the backyard, wildflowers in mason jars, a playlist of our favorite slow dances. Lisa would stand there in her seafoam dress, beaming like the traitor she was, while I smiled through it all. And at the end, when the photos were posted and the toast raised, I'd hit publish on the truth. Not with rage, but with the quiet click of a mouse. Let the world see their faces then. The next morning, I drove to the florist, Miss Patty's, a hole in the wall with buckets of peonies spilling onto the sidewalk like confetti. The bell above the door jingled, sharp and cheerful, and Patty herself looked up from her apron, her glasses perched on the tip of her nose. Becca. The big day's coming up, huh? Marcus called yesterday, said you're rushing it? Bold move. My stomach twisted, but I kept my smile even. Yeah, couldn't wait any longer. She nodded, clipping stems with scissors that snipped like tiny applause. Smart. Life's too short for cold feet. Now what are we thinking? The peonies like we planned? Exactly. And enough for the arch in the backyard. As she wrapped the samples in damp paper, the scent of damp earth and rosewater filling the air, I texted Lisa, bridal shower hiccup, but wedding's on. Next Saturday, you in? Her reply came in under a minute, of course. I'm so sorry about the other day. Can we talk before? Saturday, I typed back. You'll see everything then. I hit send, pocketed my phone, and paid Patty with cash, crisp 20s from the emergency jar Marcus and I kept in the kitchen drawer. The one labeled for Paris in my looping handwriting. Driving home, the radio played an old ballad, the kind Marcus used to hum off key while flipping pancakes. The sun slanted through the windshield, warm on my knuckles, and for the first time since that doorframe, I felt something like power. Not the hot flash of anger, but a steady hum, like the engine purring under my foot. Little did I know. The real unraveling was just beginning. The week before the fake wedding moved like a fever dream, slow, sticky, and impossible to wake from. I kept the house spotless, the way Marcus liked it. Counters wiped, throw pillows fluffed, the faint scent of lemon polish drifting through the air like a lie. Mom came over every afternoon, her station wagon loaded with Tupperware and worried she tried to hide behind recipes. You're too thin, mija, she'd say, pressing a plate of chicken enchiladas into my hands. I'd eat half, then scrape the rest into the trash when she turned to rinse the dishes, the green chile burning my throat like regret. Lisa showed up on Thursday with a garment bag slung over her shoulder and a nervous smile that didn't reach her eyes. She stood on the porch in the late afternoon light, the sun catching the gold hoops she'd worn since high school. I brought the dress, she said, voice small. Seafoam like we picked. I had it altered, taken in the waist a little. I stepped aside to let her in. The floorboards creaked under her sandals, the same sound they'd made the night she'd stumbled drunk after her breakup with Jake, crying into my shoulder until dawn. She smelled like the same coconut shampoo, but now it turned my stomach. We went to the guest room, my room now, the one with the slanted ceiling and the window that stuck in summer. I unzipped the bag. The dress spilled out like water, soft folds catching the light. Lisa hovered, twisting her rings. I know you hate me, she started. I don't hate you, I said, smoothing the fabric over the bed. It was true. Hate was too simple. What I felt was a hollow ache, like someone had scooped out the center of me and left the shell. She sat on the edge of the mattress, the springs sighing. It just happened. We were drinking, and Marcus was upset about the venue deposit, and I was trying to make him feel better, and... She stopped, cheeks flushing. I'm not making excuses. I know what I did. I looked at her then, really looked. Her mascara was smudged, not from crying, but from the heat, and there was a tiny ketchup stain on her white blouse from lunch. She looked ordinary. Not the villain I'd built in my head, just a woman who'd made a choice and couldn't I saved the video in my drafts. 30 seconds of grainy phone footage I'd taken that first night. The audio muted, but the visuals unmistakable. Lisa's bare shoulder, Marcus's hand on her waist, the quilt twisted like a crime scene. Over it, text in simple white font. This was supposed to be my bridal shower. Instead, it was the end of my engagement. Watch the wedding tomorrow. A truth over tears, I didn't sleep. At 4 a.m., I padded downstairs in socks. The house dark, except for the glow of the fridge. I made tea, chamomile, the kind Grandma used to brew when nightmares came, and sat at the kitchen table, tracing the wood grain with my fingernail. The clock ticked, steady and cruel. Saturday dawned clear, the sky a washed-out blue like old denim. Guests trickled in by noon, Mom in her Sunday best, Aunt Carla with her famous 7-layer dip, my cousin's kids chasing each other through the grass. The willow tree dripped Spanish moss, the arch woven with peonies that smelled sweet and funereal. Lisa arrived at 2 dress shimmering in the sunlight. She looked beautiful, the way she always did when she tried, hair curled, lips a soft pink. She found me in the kitchen, adjusting my veil in the reflection of the toaster. "You look—" She swallowed. "Perfect," I turned. The dress fit like it was made for this moment. Ivory silk skimming my hips, the neckline modest but daring. Mom had cried when she zipped me up, her hands trembling. "So do you," I said, and meant it. Marcus was already outside, pacing near the arch. I watched through the window as Elena straightened his tie, her mouth a tight line. He kept glancing at the gate like he expected me to bolt. At 2:45, the music started, a soft guitar track we'd chosen for the processional. Guests took their seats. Mom squeezed my hand, her palm damp. "I'm so proud," she whispered, and I nodded, throat tight. Lisa walked down the aisle first, the bouquet trembling slightly. Her smile was practiced, but I saw the strain at the corners, the way her eyes darted to Marcus and away. Then it was my turn. The grass was cool under my bare feet. I ditched the heels hours ago. Each step felt deliberate, like walking a tightrope over a canyon. Faces blurred. Aunt Carla dabbing her eyes, my old coworker waving, Elena giving me a subtle nod. Marcus's eyes locked on mine as I reached him. He looked wrecked, tie askew, hands clenched at his sides. The officiant, a friend from college named Sam, cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved." The words washed over me. I barely heard them. My pulse was a drum in my ears, steady and loud. Lisa stood to my left, close enough that I could smell her perfume, jasmine, the same one she'd worn to my engagement party. When it was time for vows, Marcus went first. His voice cracked on the first line. "Becca, from the moment I met you—" I let him talk. Let the guests lean forward, let Mom clutch her tissue. Let Lisa shift her weight, the bouquet wilting slightly in the heat. Then it was my turn. I turned to face the small crowd, not Marcus. The phone in Elena's pocket was already recording, angled just right. "I had vows," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Beautiful ones. About forever and coffee in the mornings and growing old on this porch. I gestured to the swing behind us, the one where Marcus and I had carved our initials last summer. A murmur rippled through the chairs, but forever got shorter than I expected. I nodded to Elena. She tapped her screen. The first phone buzzed, my cousin's, then another. Then a chorus like crickets waking up. Lisa's face went white. Marcus made a sound, half gasp, half choke. On every screen, the video played. 30 seconds of truth, looping silently. Gasps, whispers. Someone dropped a phone. It clattered on the patio stones. I looked at Lisa. Her eyes were huge, fixed on the nearest screen. Her cousin's, I think. The bouquet slipped from her fingers, roses scattering like blood drops on the grass. Marcus reached for me. "Becca," I stepped back. The veil caught the breeze, fluttering like a surrender flag. "This was never about the wedding," I said, voice carrying over the growing chaos. "It was about a lie. And lies don't get to wear white." Mom stood slowly, her chair scraping. She looked from the phones to Lisa to Marcus, understanding dawn like sunrise. I turned and walked back down the aisle, barefoot, the grass cool and real under my soles. Behind me, voices rose, questions, accusations, someone crying. I didn't look back. At the porch steps, I paused. The swing creaked in the wind, our initials still carved there. Fresh as the day we'd done it, I smiled, small and tired, and went inside. The screen door slammed behind me with a sound like a judge's gavel. Inside, the house was cool and dim. the air conditioning humming like it had secrets of its own. I could still hear the chaos outside, raised voices, chairs scraping, my cousin's kid asking if this was part of the game, but it felt muffled, like I'd slipped underwater. I leaned against the kitchen counter, palms flat on the granite, and let the silence settle over me. Mom burst in first. Her hat was crooked, the little netting over her eyes torn. "Becca, what in God's name?" I held up a hand. "I'm okay." She stopped short, mouth half open. Then her face crumpled. Not in anger, but in the way it did when I was 8 and fell off my bike, knees skinned raw. She crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into her arms. She smelled like talc and the gardenias she'd pinned to her lapel. I let her hold me, felt the tremor in her shoulders. He flinched. "I'm sorry, the word tasted like ash." I'd heard it in voicemails, texts, the way Lisa had said it 100 times. It didn't fix the quilt. It didn't unsee her back arching under him. Mom set her glass down with a soft clink. "You both need to leave," she said. Not loud, but final. "This is Becca's home. You don't get to stand here and ask for forgiveness like it's a party favor." Lisa looked at me, eyes pleading. "Can we talk, just us?" I shook my head. "There's nothing left to say that hasn't already been seen by 30 people and half the internet." Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. "The video— Stay up," I said. "You don't get to control the narrative anymore." They left then. Lisa first, pausing at the door like she might turn back, then thinking better of it. Marcus lingered, hand on the knob. "I loved you," he said. Past tense. The sound of it cut deeper than I expected. The door closed. The house exhaled. Mom and I stood in the kitchen, the iced tea sweating rings onto the counter. Outside, the guests were dispersing, cars starting, murmurs fading. Elena poked her head in, gave me a thumbs up, then disappeared to handle the cleanup. I sank into a chair, the silk of the dress pooling around me like spilled milk. Mom sat across, reached for my hand. Her fingers were cool, calloused from years of kneading dough. "You okay?" she asked. "No," I said. "But I will be." She nodded, squeezed once, then stood. "I'm making cafecito, strong, you're eating something." I didn't argue. That night, the house was quiet in a way it hadn't been since the betrayal. I changed into Marcus's old t-shirt. Habit, not sentiment, and curled up on the couch with a bowl of Mom's arroz con pollo. The TV played some mindless sitcom, the laugh track jarring. My phone buzzed incessantly. Notifications, DMs, texts from numbers I didn't know. "I'm so sorry." "You're a queen." "They didn't deserve you." I muted it. Set it face down. At 11:47 p.m., there was a knock. Soft, hesitant. I opened the door to find Elena holding a bottle of mezcal and 2 plastic cups from the food truck. "Thought you might need this," she said. We sat on the porch swing, the chains creaking. The mezcal burned going down, smoky and sharp. The night smelled like cut grass and distant barbecue. "You did it," she said. "Ballsy as hell," I laughed, the sound rusty. Felt like dying. "But you didn't." She poured another shot. "Tomorrow the world moves on." "Today you won." I clinked my cup against hers. The stars were out, sharp and indifferent. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked once, then stopped. Inside, the wedding dress hung in the closet, a ghost in plastic. I'd deal with it later, maybe burn it, maybe donate it, maybe just let it gather dust until the memory faded. For now, I had the swing, the mezcal, and the quiet certainty that I'd taken back what was mine. My story. My dignity, my future. The fallout was just beginning. But for the first time in weeks, I slept without dreaming. Sunday morning came in soft and gray, the kind of light that makes everything look like an old photograph. I woke up on the couch, Elena's mezcal bottle empty on the coffee table, my mouth tasting like smoke and copper. The house was still. Mom had gone home at dawn after pressing a kiss to my forehead and whispering, "Call if you need me. Any hour." I padded to the kitchen in Marcus's t-shirt and my own socks, started coffee, and watched the drip like it was telling time. The video had 87,000 views by 8:01 a.m. Comments poured in faster than I could read. Heart emojis, fire emojis, strangers calling me brave and iconic. A local news station DM'd asking for an interview. I ignored it all, muted notifications, and opened the fridge. Leftover tacos sat wrapped in foil, the carnitas congealed but smelling faintly of lime and cumin. I ate one cold, standing over the sink, the grease slick on my fingers. Elena texted at 9:12, "You alive?" The food truck guy wants to know if he should still bill Marcus, I replied. Bill him. And tip yourself extra. She sent back a salute emoji. By noon, the yard was cleaned. Chairs stacked, string lights coiled, the willow arch already sagging like it knew the party was a lie. I found Lisa's bouquet on the patio table, the roses brown at the edges, petals curling inward. I carried it inside, set it in a vase with fresh water out of habit, then caught myself and dumped it in the trash. The stems scratched my palms. The doorbell rang at 1:07. I expected Mom, maybe Aunt Carla with casserole reinforcements. Instead, it was Sarah, my coworker, the one who'd photographed the wedding as a favor. She stood on the porch in ripped jeans and yesterday's mascara, camera bag slung over her shoulder. I come bearing hard drives and zero judgment, she said, lifting a paper bag from the bakery down the street. Also, croissants. We sat at the kitchen table. She slid the drive across the wood. Raw files. You want any of them gone, say the word? I'll wipe them like they never existed. I plugged it into my laptop. The folder opened 412 photos. Me walking down the aisle, veil catching sunlight. Lisa's face the moment the video hit. Marcus mid-sentence, mouth open like a fish. Mom's hand flying to her chest. I scrolled slowly, the croissant cooling in my hand. Delete the ones with the kids, I said. They don't need to be collateral. She nodded, fingers flying over the keys. Done. The rest? Your call. I closed the laptop. Keep them, evidence. Sarah bit into her croissant, flakes drifting onto the table like snow. You know half the office saw it, right? The boss wants to give you the week off. Paid. I laughed, the sound surprising me. Tell him I'll be in tomorrow. Deadlines don't wait for heartbreak. She left at 2:30, hugging me hard at the door. You're terrifying in the best way, she whispered. Alone again, I opened Instagram. The video was at 200K. An influencer with 1.2 million followers had stitched it, captioning, "When the plot twist hits harder than the bouquet toss." I scrolled the comments, some cruel, most kind. One stood out from an account with no profile pic. I'm sorry. I never deserved you. My blocked him without replying. Monday, I went to work. The office smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner, same as always. My cubicle still had the Bride Tribe mug. I turned it to face the wall. Coworkers gave me a wide berth, eyes soft with pity or awe. At lunch, Sarah slid a salad across my desk. Eat. You're scaring the interns. I ate. The lettuce was crisp, the dressing too vinegary. Normal tasted strange. That evening, Mom called. Lisa's mom is at my house, she said, voice tight. I want to talk to you. I drove over, the sky bruising purple. Mrs. Delgado opened the door before I knocked. Same dark eyes as Lisa. Same nervous habit of twisting her gold bracelet. The living room smelled like the lavender sachets she kept in every drawer. She's not here, Mrs. Delgado said. Left for her sisters in Phoenix this morning. But she asked me to give you this. She handed me an envelope, heavy cream paper, my name in Lisa's looping cursive. I waited until I was in the car to open it. One page ink smudged in places. Becca, I keep replaying your face in that doorway. I see it when I close my eyes. You were right, jealousy isn't an excuse. I broke us. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know I'm getting help, therapy, distance. I'm sorry for every second I stole from your joy. If you ever want to scream at me, call. I'll answer. Lisa, I folded the letter, slid it into the glove box next to the emergency cache. The engine hummed. I drove home with the windows down, the desert wind whipping my hair into knots. Tuesday. The article dropped. Local paper front page of the lifestyle section. Jilted bride's viral revenge wedding shocks community. They'd interviewed the food truck guy, Elena, who gave them nothing, and somehow Mrs. Delgado, who said, "Young love makes mistakes. Compassion heals." I read it over coffee, the mug warm in my hands, and felt nothing, not vindicated, not angry, just tired. Wednesday, I boxed Marcus's things. His work boots by the door, the cologne he wore too much of, the framed photo of us at the Grand Canyon. I left the boxes on the porch with a note. Pick up by Friday or they go to Goodwill. He came Thursday at dusk, loaded them into his truck without a word. Our eyes met once across the lawn. His were red-rimmed. Mine were dry. Friday, I met Elena for drinks at the cantina with the chipped tile floor and the best margaritas in town. The salt stung my lips, the lime sharp on my tongue. We didn't talk about the wedding. We talked about her new nephew, my upcoming project, the way the monsoon clouds were stacking up like cotton. Are you dating yet? She asked, swirling her straw. I laughed. Give me 5 minutes. Saturday, exactly 1 week after the fake wedding, I woke early, drove to the hiking trail Marcus and I used to take. The air was cool, the path dusted with pine needles. I hiked to the overlook where we'd picnicked, sat on the same rock, and watched the sun climb. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw your video. You're incredible. Coffee? Javier, Sarah's cousin, the quiet one from the office party. I smiled, typed back, next weekend. I picked the place. The city spread below me, golden in the light. I breathed in the smell of creosote and dust, felt the rock warm under my palms, and for the first time in weeks, the hollow place inside me felt a little less empty. Healing, I realized, wasn't a destination. It was this: small steps, small choices, the sun on my face, and the promise of coffee with someone who'd never seen me cry. The weeks after the boxes left the porch settled into a rhythm I hadn't known I was craving. Quiet, deliberate, mine. I woke before the alarm, brewed coffee in the French press Marcus had insisted was fancy, and drank it black on the back step while the sprinklers hissed across the neighbor's lawn. The morning smelled like wet concrete impossibility. I stopped checking the video's view count. It had crested 2 million and plateaued. The internet had its pound of flesh, and I was done feeding it. Work became my anchor. The office buzzed with the polite hush people give a widow at a funeral, but it faded. I pitched a rebrand for a local bookstore, poured myself into serif fonts and muted greens, and when the client cried at the presentation, I felt the old spark flicker. Pride, not performance. Sarah high-fived me in the hallway. The intern stopped tiptoeing. One afternoon, the boss left a cupcake on my desk, chocolate with a tiny fondant heart. I ate it in 2 bites and didn't think of frosting initially. Evenings, I reclaimed the house room by room. I painted the bedroom a soft sage, the color of new leaves after rain, and bought a new quilt, simple white, no history. I hung string lights over the headboard because I liked the glow, not because they were trendy. Mom came over on Saturdays with her toolbox and a playlist of old Selena, and we replaced the sticky window in the guest room while singing off-key. She never asked about the video again. She just handed me screws and told stories about the time Dad tried to fix the garbage disposal and flooded the kitchen. We laughed until our sides hurt, the sound echoing off bare walls. Lisa's letter stayed in the glove box. I moved it once to grab the insurance card and felt the paper brush my fingers. Soft, almost weightless. I left it there. Marcus texted once, 3 weeks out, "Can I get my grandfather's watch?" Left it in the nightstand. I found the watch, silver, scratched face, the second hand stuttering like it was tired. I met him at the coffee shop where we'd had our first date, the one with the cracked vinyl booths, and the barista who still called me honey. He looked thinner, eyes shadowed, wearing a shirt I didn't recognize. I slid the watch across the table. Our fingers didn't touch. "Thank you," he said. "That's all," I replied. He nodded, stood, and left. The bell above the door jingled like punctuation. Javier happened slowly, the way good coffee brews. We met at the little roastery downtown, the one with mismatched chairs and the barista who drew ferns in the foam. He wore a faded chambray shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbow, and listened more than he talked. We spoke about typefaces and hiking trails and the way monsoon rain smells like pennies. When he asked about the video, I told him the short version. I needed the truth out louder than the lie. He nodded, stirred his cortado, and changed the subject to his mom's tamales. I like that he didn't poke the bruise. We hiked every Sunday after that. He carried extra water, pointed out lizards sunning on rocks, and never filled silence with noise. One afternoon, 3 months in, we reached the overlook where I'd sat alone weeks earlier. The city shimmered below, heat waves dancing off the asphalt. He pulled a thermos from his pack, horchata, cold and sweet. "To new views," he said, clinking his bottle against mine. I drank, the cinnamon coating my tongue, and felt something loosen in my chest. Not love, not yet. Just space. Room to breathe. Lisa came back to town in October. I heard it from Mom, who heard it from Mrs. Delgado at the beauty parlor. She was thinner, hair cut to her chin, working remotely for a nonprofit in Phoenix. She didn't call. I didn't expect her to. Then one Thursday, the doorbell rang at 7:12 p.m. I was elbow deep in cookie dough. Oatmeal raisin, grandma's recipe, the kitchen smelling like vanilla and warmth. I wiped my hands on the apron Mom had sewn from old flour sacks and opened the door. Lisa stood there in a navy coat, holding a small paper bag. The porch light caught the new hollows under her eyes. "I'm not staying," she said quickly. Here." She thrust the bag at me. Inside was a tin of chamomile tea and a tiny succulent in a painted pot. A note in her handwriting, "For the nights you can't sleep." "I'm still sorry." "I'm still trying." I looked at her. The air between us crackled, not with anger, but with the weight of everything unsaid. "You don't owe me plants," I said. "I know." Her voice was steady. "But I owe you the truth in person. I'm in therapy. I'm learning why I thought stealing joy was the same as having it. I don't expect anything. I just needed you to hear it from me, not a letter in a glove box." I nodded. The succulent was cool in my palm, the leaves plump and waxy. "Thank you," I said, and meant it. She left without hugging me. I watched her walk to her car, the taillights disappearing around the corner, and closed the door. I set the succulent on the windowsill above the sink, next to the basil I'd been babying since spring. The tea went into the cupboard beside Grandma's chamomile. I finished the cookies, the oven timer dinging like a heartbeat, and ate 2 hot from the sheet, raisins bursting sweet on my tongue. Thanksgiving came. Mom hosted, the house loud with cousins and card games and the smell of turkey roasting slowly. Javier came, his first family holiday, nervous in a pressed shirt, charming abuela with his Spanish and his second helping of flan. Elena pulled me aside in the hallway, eyes twinkling. "He's a keeper," she whispered. "Don't scare him off with your revenge plots." I laughed so hard I snorted. Later, washing dishes while the men argued over football, Mom bumped my hip with hers. "You're glowing, mija." I looked out the window at the string lights in the backyard, the same ones from the fake wedding but rewired for Christmas. They twinkled against the dark, steady and sure. "I'm getting there," I said. December brought snow, a rare dusting that turned the desert white for one morning. Javier and I built a lopsided snowman in the front yard, using jalapeno cans for arms and a carrot we found wilted in the crisper. The neighbors' kids cheered from their porch. When the sun melted it by noon, we drank cocoa on the swing, our breath fogging the air. One night, I took down the last trace of Marcus, the save-the-date magnet on the fridge curling at the edges. I slipped it into the drawer with the letter, the watch receipt, the odds and ends of a life that no longer fit. The fridge looked bare. Then I stuck up Javier's doodle of a cactus wearing sunglasses. Better. Spring arrived with jacaranda blooms carpeting the sidewalk purple. I ran my first 10K, Javier cheering at the finish line with a sign that read, "You outran the past, now outrun me." I collapsed into his arms, sweaty and laughing, the metal cold against my neck. On the anniversary of the fake wedding, I woke early, drove to the trail alone. The city was gold and pink below, the air crisp with creosote. I sat on the same rock, pulled the succulent, now thriving in a bigger pot, from my backpack, and watered it from my bottle. The leaves were fat and green, roots tangled tight. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. The hollow place had been filled with new growth. Friendship, love, the quiet certainty that I'd chosen myself first. I took a photo. The succulent against the sunrise, my shadow long across the stone. Caption, 1 year later, still blooming. I posted it, turned off my phone, and hiked down lighter than I'd climbed up. Summer came back around, the kind that makes the asphalt shimmer, and the cicadas scream like they're paid for it. I'd been with Javier 8 months, long enough to know he left the toilet seat up but always replaced the ice trays, long enough for Mom to start calling him Mijo without thinking. We'd fallen into a rhythm. Friday tacos at the food truck, the same one from the fake wedding, now run by a guy who winked every time I ordered extra salsa. Saturday hikes. Sunday coffee on the porch swing where I'd once plotted revenge with mezcal. The house was fully mine now. I'd refinanced after Marcus signed the quitclaim deed without a fight. His lawyer's letter was clipped and polite, the way people write when they know they've lost. I painted the front door a bold coral, hung a wind chime made of sea glass Elena brought back from Baja. The quilt on my bed was the white one, washed so many times it felt like clouds. Javier's toothbrush lived in the holder next to mine. His hiking boots sat by the door, caked with red dust from our last trail. Lisa and I hadn't spoken since the succulent night. I saw her once at the grocery store in the produce aisle. She was thinner, hair still short, pushing a cart with almond milk and kale. Our eyes met over the avocados. She started to smile, small, uncertain. I nodded, the kind you give a stranger you almost knew once, and moved on to the tomatoes. No drama, no ache. Just the soft click of closure. Then July hit, and with it the email I never expected. Subject: wedding video, permission request, from True Heart Stories podcast. They wanted to feature my story anonymized, they said, but the details were unmistakable. The backyard arch, the live reveal, the viral fallout. We're looking for narratives of resilience, the producer wrote. Yours moved millions. Would you consider an interview? Voice only or full video, compensation included. I read it on the porch, iced tea sweating in my hand, the wind chime tinkling like distant laughter. Javier was inside, humming off key while he grilled chicken for salad. The smell of charcoal drifted through the screen door. I forwarded the email to Elena. Her reply came in seconds. Do it, but make them pay for the coral door too. I laughed, then sat with it. The idea of my voice, calm, measured, telling the whole ugly, beautiful truth to strangers, felt less like exposure and more like ownership. I'd spent a year stitching myself back together. Maybe it was time to show the seams. I said yes. We recorded on a Tuesday evening, Javier banished to the cantina with a six-pack and strict instructions not to listen until it aired. The producer, a woman named Mara with a voice like warm honey, asked gentle questions from her studio in Austin. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd eaten cold tacos the morning after, and spoke into my laptop. Start wherever feels true, Mara said. I started with the doorway. The vanilla candle. The way the orange juice sloshed like blood. I told her about the Pinterest boards and the quilt and the way Lisa's laugh used to feel like home. I told her about the planning, how revenge tasted like cold coffee at 3 a.m., and the moment the video went live, the collective gasp under the willow tree. I told her about the aftermath, the boxes, the coral door, the succulent still thriving on the windowsill. And the lesson? Mara asked softly. I paused. Outside, the sprinklers clicked on, a soothing rhythm. Javier's boots scraped the porch. He was home early, pretending not to eavesdrop. That betrayal doesn't define you, I said. What you do with the pieces does. I could have burned the dress, screamed on the internet, let it rot from the inside. Instead, I built something new. Not perfect. Just mine, Mara thanked me. We set a release date for September, Season 3, Episode 1, The Wedding That Wasn't. The episode dropped on a Thursday. I listened in the car on the way to pick up Javier from the airport. He'd been in Tucson for his abuela's birthday. My voice filled the speakers, steady and unfamiliar, like hearing an old friend tell your story better than you could. The comments flooded in before I reached the terminal. This is healing. I needed this today. She's my hero. Javier slid into the passenger seat, duffel smelling like airport coffee. Heard it, he said, buckling up. You left out the part where I spilled horchata on my shirt the first time we met. I grinned. Artistic license. That night, we sat on the porch swing with takeout tamales and a bottle of the good mezcal. The podcast played on low, my voice, Mara's, the soft music they layered under the reveal. When it ended, Javier raised his cup. To coral doors, he said. And second chances, I added. We clinked. The mezcal burned sweet. Fall painted the jacarandas gold. The podcast hit 1 million downloads. Mara sent a framed quote from the episode, I built something new, just mine. I hung it above the kitchen table next to Javier's cactus doodle. One Sunday in November, Mom hosted a barbecue. Nothing fancy, just ribs and Elena's famous mac salad. The backyard looked nothing like the wedding. Picnic tables instead of white chairs, kids chasing the dog through the grass, string lights twinkling for no reason but joy. Javier manned the grill, apron tied too tight, flipping carne asada with the concentration of a surgeon. Lisa showed up uninvited but not unwelcome. Mom had mentioned it might happen. Mrs. Delgado had asked. She stood at the gate in a simple sundress holding a bakery box. Cupcakes, vanilla with gold piping. No initials. I met her halfway across the lawn. The grass was cool under my bare feet. Hey, she said. Hey. She handed me the box. Peace offering. Also, I'm moving to Seattle. New job, clean slate, I opened it. The frosting smelled like the bridal shower that never was. Good for you. We stood in silence, the kind that doesn't need filling. Around us, laughter rose. Elena's cackle. Javier's mock outrage at a burnt tortilla. Lisa shifted. I listened to the podcast. You didn't demonize me. You're not a demon, I said. Just human. She smiled, small and real. Take care, Becca. You too. She left before the cupcakes were cut. I watched her car pull away, then carried the box to the table. Javier raised an eyebrow. I shrugged, frosted one, and took a bite. Sweet, simple, no ghosts. That night, under the string lights, Javier pulled me close mid-slow dance to an old Mark Anthony song. His hand was warm on my waist, his breath mint and mezcal. Marry me, he said. Not a question. A fact. I laughed into his shoulder. We've known each other for 9 months. 10 next week. And I've seen you at your strongest. I want the rest. I pulled back, looked at him. Really looked. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. The scar on his thumb from a hiking mishap. The quiet steadiness that never asked me to be less broken. Yes, I said. He kissed me then. Soft and certain. The kind of kiss that doesn't need a willow arch or a viral video. Just 2 people, a porch swing, and the promise of mornings with burnt toast and coffee for 2. The hollow place was gone. In its stead, roots deep and strong, ready to hold whatever came next. And there I was, a year and a half later, swaying on that same porch swing with a man who never asked me to prove I was whole, just showed up with horchata and quiet mornings. The coral door still greets me every evening, bright as a promise I kept to myself. Some nights I water the succulent Lisa left. Its leaves are thick now, stubborn, alive. I think of her in Seattle, of Marcus wherever he landed, and I don't feel anger. I feel finished. Betrayal carves a canyon in you, but time and choices fill it with something greener than you expect. I chose truth over tiaras, dignity over drama, and a love that doesn't need a stage. The scars are there, faint silver lines, but they remind me I survived and built something truer on the other side. So here's my quiet question to you. Dear heart, when someone breaks your trust, will you let the pieces cut you forever? Or will you gather them, sharp edges and all, and build something only you could design? If this story touched you, leave your own quiet victory in the comments. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, because every week we sit right here sharing the kind of truth that sets us free. You're not alone. I'll see you in the next one.